In this video, we'll explore and test the main features of the Canon EF 85mm f1.8 USM lens. Known for its compact design and sharpness, this is one of Canon's most appreciated prime lenses. I'll cover 12 aspects of this classic lens, starting with its physical features in the first section and moving on to its image quality tests later. Let's begin with the first aspect, build quality. This 85mm Canon lens may not carry the L designation, but it still offers solid build quality. It feels robust, with a durable plastic exterior, and on the back there's a metal mount. It lacks the weather sealing gasket, but can withstand regular use for many years without any issues. The focus ring operates smoothly, providing just the right resistance for fine adjustments. Additionally, this lens features a distance scale that is very useful and a single switch for turning the autofocus on or off. It's a nice and simple design. I really like how this lens looks and feels. It has a good build quality. Next up, compatible cameras. It was made for Canon's DSLRs and it has the EF letters in its full name, not EFS, so it works on both full-frame and APS-C sensor cameras. With the use of an adapter, you can also mount this lens on one of Canon's mirrorless cameras, like one from the EOS R series. Of course, you can also use it on cameras from different brands, you just need the right adapter and it will work. Next up, focal length. The 85mm focal length is well loved by portrait photographers for its natural perspectives and flattering compression. It creates beautiful separation between your subject and background. On a full-frame camera, it retains its native 85mm focal length, perfect for portraits, whereas on an APS-C sensor camera, it effectively becomes a 136mm lens due to the crop factor, making it ideal for tighter headshots. With this focal length increase, it can be great for sports or event photography, where you need a bit more reach. Next up, size and weight. The 85mm is quite compact and lightweight, especially compared to the bulkier zoom lenses. It measures about 7.1 centimeters in length and weighs around 425 grams, making it comfortable for handheld use over extended periods. This is one of the reasons why it's a favorite among portrait photographers who are on the move. Let's look at its aperture values. One of the biggest benefits brought by this lens is its wide maximum aperture value of f1.8. This allows you to capture stunning images in low light conditions and produces good bokeh. If needed, the aperture stops down to f22, giving you flexibility in bright light conditions. The lens features an 8-bitted aperture, which contributes to the smooth circular bokeh. We'll look at more photos later. Next up, focusing. This lens utilizes Canon's ultrasonic motor for fast, silent, and precise autofocus. It locks onto subjects quickly, making it reliable for portraits and even action shots. The manual focus ring is smooth and responsive, allowing for fine-tuned adjustments when needed. Additionally, it has a relatively short minimum focusing distance of 85 centimeters, which is handy for tighter shots. Let's see image stabilization. Unfortunately, this prime lens doesn't include built-in image stabilization. However, its wide f1.8 aperture compensates for this, allowing fast shutter speeds. Still, while photographers can manage without IS, videographers might notice a lack of stability when shooting handheld footage, so it might not be great for video if you're not using a tripod or a monopod. These were the physical features. Now let's see how good this lens actually is in the image quality tests. First up, sharpness. Here we are at f1.8 on a full-frame camera, where in the middle of the image we observe good sharpness but with some purple color fringing. If we stop down to f2.8, image quality improves immediately, with great sharpness and no chromatic aberrations. Let's also look at the corners, where things are more difficult for any lens. At f1.8, with all in-camera corrections turned off, we encounter the same chromatic aberrations, but surprisingly, sharpness appears decent. If we stop down to f2.8, we notice good clarity, although chromatic aberrations persist. To eliminate them, we'll need to close the aperture to f4. This is a good result for such an old lens, but contrast levels could be better. We achieve great performance in the corners only if we stop down to f5.6. These nice results persist until we reach f11, but beyond that, diffraction starts to kick in, softening the image, as is typical with all lenses. Although it's not spectacular, this 85mm lens delivers good results on a full-frame camera. Let's now move to a more demanding APS-C sensor. In the middle of the image, at the widest aperture, the smaller sensor pushes the limits of the glass. Although sharpness remains good, there's a large amount of chromatic aberrations. However, if we stop down to f2.8, they disappear. This is already a good result, but for perfection, we'll need to stop down to f4. Let's now examine the corners, starting again at the widest aperture. Once more, we observe some purple color fringing, but surprisingly, sharpness in the corners looks decent for f1.8. If we close to f2.8, we get a good result, and at f4, everything becomes punchier. This good result is maintained until f11 because, as usual, the effects of diffraction creep in. All in all, when it comes to sharpness at normal distances, this lens performs quite well. Although it shows some chromatic aberrations, sharpness appears good from corner to corner if we close the aperture just a bit. Moving to distortion and vignetting, we will only test it on a full-frame camera since there are no issues on a crop sensor camera. As we observe, there are almost zero distortions, the lines remain nice and straight. It's my fault that I wasn't perfectly parallel with the piece of paper I was photographing, but the lens itself shows almost no distortion. Let's now look at the corners at f1.8, where with the Peripheral Illumination Correction turned off, they appear quite dark. A big improvement comes at f2.8 and everything looks good at f4. Let's now switch again to f1.8, and if we turn the in-camera corrections on, we notice that they help a bit, but there's no significant difference if we close the aperture more. All in all, a great result when it comes to distortions and an average performance on vignetting due to those dark corners visible at the widest aperture. Close-up image quality. We are now at 85 cm away from the subject, the minimum focusing distance of this lens. If we look closer, sharpness remains good, but we observe quite a large amount of chromatic aberrations on contrasting edges. Stopping down to f2.8 brings an improvement, but the aberrations don't disappear completely. Also, contrast levels remain quite average. If we move to f4, we finally achieve a good result with nice contrast. If we close the aperture more, there won't be a huge difference. So, in close-ups, the lens performance is slightly above average, thanks to that good sharpness. If the lens showed more contrast and less chromatic aberrations at the widest apertures, it would have been great. Bright light performance. When strong light hits the lens directly, we see glaring, which reduces contrast and quite a lot of flaring. It's better to use the lens hood on this 85mm lens or simply avoid bright lights hitting the glass. Next up, bokeh. Here, as expected, the lens delivers good results. Although at normal distances, the f1.8 aperture could have created an even smoother background, it's a good performance for a lens released in 1992. In close-ups, the background nicely dissolves, making the lens very suitable for portraits. Although the newer 85mm lenses offer better colors and creamier backgrounds, this old Canon glass is still good. In conclusion, it's no surprise why the Canon 85mm prime lens remains popular today. Its build quality, autofocus, and image quality are excellent. It's always a pleasure to shoot with the 85mm. And thanks to the wide availability of adapters for mounting it on mirrorless cameras, the 85mm will continue to be a popular choice. For portrait photographers or those looking to capture tighter shots, this prime lens offers great value for its price and comes highly recommended. Feel free to share your thoughts about this prime lens in the comment section, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and I'll see you in the next video.